about 20 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then we'll break.
Okay. Damn, dog. This is crazy. This is crazy. A lot of people in here I love, man. And I know everyone who I love in here would do anything for anybody else in here too, because I love you and I know you love who I love. I'm grateful for all of you, man. This is crazy. Look at it, Jared. Look at it, man. Where I grew up in Utah County right here, you know, and I grew up in the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints. Some people like to call it Mormons. I don't like to call it that, but that's how a lot of people know it. And in the church, a big deal when someone turns 18 is they're supposed to go serve the Lord for 2 years. And in my ward, we had at one point, they call them missionaries, and they send these kids out on missions and they go serve the Lord for 2 years. And at one point in my ward had over 45 missionaries, and my mom's only dream for me was that I would get up and I would give what's called a farewell talk. It's your goodbyes, and that I would give a homecoming talk, which is the lessons you learned once you've served your 2-year mission. Well, Mom, the farewell talk you got was checking me into a detox. And here's your homecoming talk, all right? I love you. On February 3rd, 2018, I was watching the New England Patriots play the underdog Eagles. I was watching it at my uncle's house with my grandpa and my cousins, and we were having the game. If you watched that game, that was arguably the best sporting event you could have ever seen. That game broke more records than any sporting event in history, in my opinion, from what I've seen. It was incredible. Everybody in my family was having a good time, laughing, joking. And there I was. If you know anything about me, you know I thrive off Super Bowl Sunday. That's all I look forward to. I love sports. I was bred by them. I've learned so much from them. And my whole family's having a good time watching the game, and I'm in the corner sick. I'm in the corner unhappy. I'm sick. I'm going nowhere fast. I'm withdrawing off of drugs. I can't pay attention to this game because I'm thinking about the next time I'm going to get high. And the game ends. The underdog Eagles beat Tom Brady and the Patriots. And that was a great game. And I remember after that game just thinking, all right, is it time to go home and get high? And then another thought kind of came to my mind. It was like, you need to go see your mom. And amen. Yes, Lord. After that, I made the decision to go and have a conversation with my mom. Show up to my mom's house, and I knock on the door. She opens the door, and I have my bloodshot eyes. My eyes are baggy. I'm withdrawing off of drugs, and I don't feel well. And I walk inside, and she's wondering why I'm there because I haven't been coming home on Sundays recently. And I just lay on her floor. And she kind of goes, "What's wrong, bud?" And I just looked at her and I was like, "I'm not happy, Mom. I'm not happy with anything going on in my life right now." And my mom's cool and content. If you know anything about my mom, she's a player, man. She makes it happen. And she lays next to me and she says, "Well, maybe if you tell me what's going on, it'll bring power to it." And my mom knew what was going on in my life, but she didn't know the extent of what was really going on and how deep I really was and where I was really at. And I look over to my mom and I go, "Mom, I'm addicted to heroin." And if you hear that, that's sorry. If you hear that phrase as mother, I don't think if it was me as a father, I wouldn't want to hear any phrase. I would rather hear anything else than hear, "Mom, I'm addicted to heroin." And my mom looks at me and she goes, stays cool and content. And she goes, "Z, you will never believe what just happened to me 2 days ago. And keep in mind, this is my first, I'm 20 years old. This is my first time running around with drugs. I don't know what's going on in life. I just know I'm not doing anything great. And she says, I just sold a lease to a man who is starting a treatment center. And apparently she must have done a good job, because that man looked at her and said, how can I help you? Because you've been so good to me. And she looked at that man 2 days earlier and she said, help my son. It was 2 days before. And that man's sitting right here. That's Jared right there. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what, Mom? I'm unhappy. I'll probably call him. I go home. I get high. I wake up the next day. I'm running out of drugs. And I either have the option to either go get more drugs, or I have the option to call this guy. And I make the decision to call this man. And he picks up the phone and we talk. And I'm like, hey, I'm Pam's son, Zaxter. She told me to give you a call. And he said, yeah, she let me know kind of what's going on. What are you really going through? I told him what I was going through. He said, okay, give me an hour. We'll get you into a detox. I don't know what detox is. I don't know what rehab is. I know like Lindsay Lohan went to rehab. I know like celebrities. And then I know like people who are on the streets, like just on drugs, you know? And I was ready, man. Like I either had the choice to go buy more drugs, or I had the choice to say okay. And I said okay to him. Gives me a call back within the hour and says, hey, your mom's coming to pick you up. We're picking you up and we're putting you into a detox. And they came and picked me up, and off I went to detox, and that was 3.5 years ago, and here I am sitting clean here today. And why I tell that story is because we all have the choice to choose to continue to live in our shit, or we have the choice to want to be and do something better with our lives. It's something as small as admitting that you need help and that you can't do it by yourself. If you don't have a team, what's the point of this life if you don't have people to share it with? And I made the decision to get the help that I needed, and I reached out and I got that help. And now I'm sitting here, a lot of work in between, but here I am sitting here 3.5 years later, giving my homecoming talk to my mom. I grew up in American Fork. I grew up with two parents who absolutely would do anything, would kill for me. Honestly, they loved me so much that, unfortunately, this wasn't why they got divorced, but unfortunately they were divorced. That's how the cookie crumbles sometime. And they both loved me so much, and my younger brother, that they wanted us around. And they fought in court and custody battles over us kids because they both loved us so much and they both felt they were doing what's right. And how it went is I ended up at my mom's place most of the time. And I have two older brothers. We have the same mom, different dad. And so those two older brothers, they were around a lot, but they were also at their dad's for a fair share of the time. And then other than that, it was my mom, my younger brother, and I. And my mom really did such a good job of like raising us in like that two-parent home. And every morning she would make us this amazing breakfast, and she would read us scriptures, and we would watch like a Mormon message and recite the proclamation of the world. And that's how we lived. And she treated it and made it an amazing environment for us to live in. But things were hard. When you become the man of the house at 6 years old, you learn really quick to cut out a lot of bullshit. And we didn't have everything, but we made the best of everything, and life was good. And a story that I want to share from my childhood, I could give you 500 stories that are amazing during my childhood, but one I really want to bring up is from ages 6 to 12, when I was 6 till when I was 12, my younger brother, who is here tonight, he would get night terrors about 4 to 5 times a week, where he would wake up and he would just scream and kick and punch, and it wasn't him. It was almost like he was possessed. And as a 6 to 12-year-old boy, I just remember like going into his room and trying to wake him up, and it would take about 10 minutes to wake him up, and I would hold this little boy in my hands and try to wake him up. And it was hard, man. Those were hard times in my life. That was hard for a 6 to 12-year-old kid. And he had so much stress on him from the divorce and trying to figure out. He was caught between staying at my dad's and my mom's, and it was hard on him, and it ate him alive, and it was just hard. And why I bring this story up is because when I turned 12 years old, in my church, what I believe, I was gifted the priesthood at 12 years old, okay? When I turned 12 years old and got the priesthood, Jackson never got a night terror again. And why I tell this is because I am not the one speaking to you tonight. I'm just a mouthpiece. God rolls with me wherever I go. Whatever He looks like to you, a deity, karma, law of attraction, whatever it is, it's here. And my God looks a lot like me, and He looks a lot like you, and He acts a lot like me, and He acts a lot like you. And that is a story that I cannot deny happening, you know. Super special to me, and I will walk the rest of my life with God next to me. And I pray that if you have not found something like that, that you go out and search, and you'll find it, I promise. My drug use kind of started when I was in high school. I started smoking weed. And the first time I smoked weed, like I knew I was supposed to be a stoner. I loved smoking weed. It was great. I finally found something that like suited me, and I loved it, and that's all I wanted to do is smoke weed and play ball. And slowly it progresses to where I would get really bad anxiety, and so I saw a doctor, and I started getting prescribed like prescription drugs. And then it went from prescription drugs to buying like Xanax on the street. And next thing I know, I'm fully addicted to all of these drugs, you know, all of these prescription drugs. And I just wanted to party and have fun. And I did party, and I had a lot of fun for a long time. And it was a good party, and it was a good run. And next thing I know, when I'm 17, I get my first DUI. And then when I'm 18, I catch 6 charges that year. And then when I'm 19, I catch 6 more charges. And then by the time I was 20, I catch 5 more. And everything's starting to add up, and I was going nowhere, and I was going nowhere fast. And one time I went to court. After getting let off by all these different court cases, finally I go to court this one time, and the judge looks at me and she goes, "Mr. Cook, you're in trouble in 3 different cities right now. You haven't done anything we've asked you. I'm going to sentence you to 6 months in jail." And for me, I was like, are you kidding me? 6 months in jail? Anyways, they put me in the back of the paddy wagon, and off I went to jail. Luckily, through court appeals, I got off early, and I was out with 3 months. But when I was in jail, all everyone wanted to do was talk about drugs. So when I got out of jail, all I wanted to do was some drugs. Next thing I know, I'm buying all these drugs that I didn't buy before. And next thing I know, I find myself using heroin. And it went from just using it with my friends to stealing the Honduran or the drug dealer's number off my friend's phone. And the next thing I know, I'm picking up heroin every single day. And then you kind of know where that leads into. So next thing I know, after the story I told you originally where I go to my mom and they check me into a detox. I get out of detox and I show up to what is I Am Recovery, which is sponsoring this event. And it was crazy, man. I walked into this house and there were these 2 guys sitting in the kitchen. And one is Chris right there, that crazy bastard over there. And then another one was this 50-year-old dude named Matt who'd been slamming meth and heroin for like 30 years, who was a pagan and he practiced witchcraft. And so I went from partying every single day and doing whatever I want to all of a sudden I'm in treatment. Remember, I don't know what treatment is. A couple weeks later, Jared introduces this phase system. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3. And we're all sitting around this table. There's 4 of us in the house by now. And he says, all right, I have introduced this phase system. Do you guys want to know what phase you're in? He gives one dude, all right, George, you're Phase 3. And keep in mind, I've been in the house the longest. My street cred runs deep after a couple weeks. I owned that place, I felt like. But George is Phase 3, Jeremy's Phase 2, and I'm looking at those guys. I'm like, if they're Phase 2, Phase 3, that means I'm getting close to being Phase 3, and I'm going to be out of here. So Phase 1, you're new. Phase 2, you get less structure. Phase 3, even less structure, and then you graduate the program. And I was looking to get out. I was like there, but I wasn't 100% there. Anyways, Jared looks at this dude next to me who had literally relapsed 2 days before, and we have taken him back into the program, and he looks at him, he says, so-and-so, you're Phase 1. And then he looks at me all kind of quiet, and he goes, Z, you're Phase 1. And I didn't say this to him, but in my mind, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you have me in Phase 1 when I've been here longer than anyone else, and this dude just relapsed 2 days ago. Are you serious? So anyways, I text Jared the next day. I said, I need to talk to you. He said, I was expecting that. And I go into his office, and I'm going to butcher the story, but I'm going to tell it my way and tell it probably better than it actually was. So I go into Jared's office, and I'm pretty much like, Jared, what, man? You put me in Phase 1 with him? What's this about? I will do whatever you want me to do. You say jump, I'll say how high. What do you want? He kind of sits back and smiles, and he's like, I've been waiting for that. I've been waiting for you to show your assertiveness. He's like, through this whole time in the program, yeah, you haven't broken any rules, but you haven't showed me any real oomph or anything like that. And what that story says to me is, there's no fence sitters. You're either swimming against the current or it's pulling you back, okay? So you're either making progress or you're losing, and there's no middle ground. So when I'm in there and I'm following all the rules, but I'm not making any progress, I'm actually going back. So kind of the moral of the story with that is you got to at least get 1% better every day. You know? You're either going forward or you're going back, but it's as simple as getting 1% better every day. If you get 1% better every day, you're 300% better by the end of the year, okay? That's 3 times the human you were the year before. I'll take that any day of the week. Moving on, I ended up staying in this house for almost 2 years. Sounds a lot like a mission, right? That 2-year mission. I ended up staying in this house for 2 years, and about a year down the road, we have a patient who comes in who just really gets it, and he's getting everything he wants, and he's making a lot of money, and he gets a new car, and he's got a sweet job. He turns himself, I'm going to call him Hercules because he turned himself into Hercules. And I was looking at this guy, and I'm like, how is he getting everything he wants? And here I am working 3 jobs. I was managing a Vans shoe store, working 24 hours a week. I was an apprentice at a barber shop, which I'm still at. It's the best job in the world. And then I was also managing this recovery house. I was like a mom with 2 full-time jobs, working 80 hours a week, I felt like, you know? And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, dude, he's getting everything. So I'm making my assistant house manager. And he kind of takes the show over, and I kind of gave it to him. Next thing I know, he stops showing up at night, and he stops calling me. And I go to have a conversation with him. I'm like, Hercules, where have you been, bro? And he smells like pot. And I was like, I'm like, and you smell like weed. What's going on? And he goes, Z, I'm ready to move out, man. I'm ready to move out. And I look at this guy, and I'm like, dude, we're building this kingdom, and I've given you the keys. You're supposed to be the heir to the throne here. I don't know if you felt like for a long time you couldn't pass the house off to anybody, but I felt like I couldn't pass the house off to anybody unless they were going to run it as well as I ran it. And
like a parent.
yeah, and he's like, I'm going to move out, and he moves out and he leaves me high and dry. And I was pissed, and I was envious, and I have this conversation with Chris Avery over there. And Chris goes, what do you think about Hercules? And I said, you know what, man, I'm envious. I am a little bummed he left me out. I wish that we were still building this together. And Chris, I'm going to probably butcher the story as well, but this is what I took out of it. Pretty much Chris looks at me and he says, Z, you've been building a foundation for 1.5 years now. Your foundation's sturdy. He came in here for about 2 to 3 months, got what he wanted quick, and he's going to fall off again. And pretty much what that story says to me, what I take from that is, there's a hip-hop artist that died right around that time who was one of my favorite artists. It was really sad. And his whole motto was, life is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And I really took that to heart because it was like I was running this marathon, and here I am now 3.5 years later. I work my dream job. I'm speaking in front of all of you. I've got a great life, and I'm finally finding happiness, you know. And unfortunately, this guy, and if I haven't got his permission, but I know he would give me his permission, but unfortunately, this dude has bounced back and forth between treatments, and now he's back in jail, unfortunately. And life's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You got to stay consistent. Some days are going to be bad. Some days are going to be hard. I wake up depressed every single morning. I hate myself every single morning. As soon as that first alarm goes off every single morning, I really do. But I know if I get out of bed, then I'm going to feel a little bit better. And I know if I go hop in the shower, then I'm going to feel a little bit better. And then if I turn that shower to cold and take an ice shower, then I'm going to feel a little bit better. And then I know if I put my clothes on, I'm going to feel a little bit better. And if I go to work, better. Make it to lunch, better. Finish work, better. And then I do a lot of like hot yoga. That's kind of like my favorite thing in the whole world. But I know if I can get through hot yoga, there's nothing else in my life that's as hard as that. If I can make it through that, better. Go home, eat healthy food, better. By the time I lay my head on my pillow at night, I'm peaceful and I'm happy. This life is never going to be easy. It's not. It's work every single day. There are no days off ever. Sometimes you need to rest, and that's okay. But there are no days off. So all I ask of 3 things. I ask you admit it to yourself that you got a problem. I ask that you need to change things. Have the hard conversations with yourself. 2, get 1% better every day. 3, life is a marathon and it's not a sprint. Stay consistent. My time's almost up, but in any LDS church fashion, I'd like to bear my testimony tonight. I'd like to bear my testimony that I believe God is out there. You got to find him one way or another. I know what he looks like to me. I don't need to tell you too much about it because mine doesn't look like yours. I love my brother Jesus Christ. I think he's gangster. Honestly, I really do. Go look who he really is. He's gangster. I love my family and my friends. I believe you should look people in the eyes. I believe you give people a firm handshake. I believe you learn their names. I believe you say hi to the person who's checking you out at the grocery store. I believe you compliment the people who help you. I believe you hold doors open for people. And I believe you just treat people how you want to be treated. Guys, thank you so much. This has been more than amazing. This is everything I've ever dreamed of. It just shows you, this is only 3.5 years, you know? Put your head down and work for a little while. You'll find it. I love you guys. Say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.